Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another exciting edition of the One Planet City Challenge, an international initiative that transforms local action into global climate leadership. My name is Tabaré Arroyo Curras. I am a member of the One Planet Cities team, and it is my pleasure to host you in this fifth OPCC webinar, a webinar that has been prepared for you, dear participants, to learn more about OPCC and solve some of your questions regarding participation, reporting, and benefits. Before I start with the webinar, let me say something about the OPCC. What is the OPCC? Many of you know that since its inception in 2011, the OPCC has been able to convey hundreds of cities around the world in one simple task. We have invited cities to develop and disseminate climate mitigation and adaptation best practices by reporting commitments and by deliver plans that accomplish those commitments. As such, reporting climate commitments and plans can have a significant impact on cities and their citizens, fundamentally changing the way they interact with each other. Reporting has many advantages. For example, it allows cities to highlight new opportunities for development. It also serves as a way of tracking progress and find out what are the milestones if we're achieving our climate aspirations. And very fundamentally, to provide credibility on the work that we're doing in terms of sustainability in our cities. Overall, when you report, what you're actually doing is increasing your leadership in terms of climate and sustainability, strengthening the accountability of your actions, and fostering transparency within your communities. The benefits of reporting to the OPCC are also very important to mention. When you report to the OPCC, your city is eligible to be assessed on how they are doing in terms of alignment of climate actions to the maximum global warming goal of the Paris Agreement. So to say, we help you addressing and aligning your actions towards a 1.5 goal. We also provide guidance to big win impact reduction actions that help you deliver on your commitments. And finally, we support you together with our partners in the public recognition of those fantastic climate efforts at national and international level. I'm happy to say today that by June, we have already subscribed 84 cities in more than 20 countries, and many more are expected to come over the next days. So all around the world, cities are getting united to inspire further climate ambition and a better sustainability action implemented at local level. Let me come back a bit to the webinar of today. Since we started with this webinar series for cities participating in the 2019-2020 OPCC cycle, as you recall, we started in this journey 4 months ago with different webinars. We had the objective of introducing in a coherent way our program to stakeholders by touring them over the general elements of the initiative. But also, we have been working very hard with these webinars to provide you an in-depth capacity building of the key elements of the OPCC 2019-2020 in a way that we can not only foster your participation, but also we can improve your climate reporting. So let me go on a very quick recap of what has been happening over the last 4 months. So starting in March, we have a very first introduction of what the OPCC is. We went over the history of the OPCC, the confirmation, how we work within this program, what is our Wheel of Cities campaign, and what are the many ways that cities can participate in this program. Having a knowledge of the process of participation, we get into the details, the thematic details that make so important for cities to participate. And we jump into our second webinar that focus on the climate science behind, the science behind climate for cities, where we address the keys and the barriers, the challenges, the opportunities that cities have in order to confront global warming in cities and align their commitments towards the Paris Agreement goals. Jumping more into the reporting process, we have one of the probably most viewed webinars was the third webinar regarding to how to report on to the One Planet City Challenge. In this webinar, together with our partners, the Carbon Disclosure Project, CDP, and ICLEI, the Sustainability for Governments initiative, we explore the different step-by-step elements that cities need to follow in order to participate in their reporting and covering the key questions of climate action reporting. Our final webinar a couple of weeks ago focused on that key features that the OPCC is bringing to you participants as an added value. So we basically explore the methods that we have developed to help you align in your commitments to the 1.5 Paris Agreement goal, the framework that we have implemented to make a more equitable and fair participation of all the cities around the world in this challenge, and finally, a very simple way approach to provide action-oriented feedback to you, not only to strengthen your participation, but also to raise your ambition and improve your climate reporting. And that's how we reached to this final OPCC webinar, the final webinar of this first cycle of 2019-2020 OPCC year. This OPCC webinar is aiming at solving many of the questions, or some of the questions, that were not answered in previous webinars. Over the past 4 months, we have been collecting the most frequent asked questions by participants via email, via webinars, and we have compiled a list that we would like to go over it with you in order to improve and solve many of those existing questions that might still remain in the mind of our participants. And for this purpose, I'm very excited to say that I will be sharing this opportunity with three fantastic colleagues. And let me start mentioning two of them: Pandora Batra, Senior Engagement Officer from CDP, and Chan Deng Beck, Senior Officer of the World Secretariat of ICLEI, the Local Governments for Sustainability. Probably if you participated in our previous webinar, you recognize that Pandora and Chan in webinar 3, they gave us a marvelous presentation on how to do the reports, to the reporting to the unified reporting system of CDP and ICLEI, and what are the main features of the questionnaire or the main asks for data submission that the OPC is asking to participants. So Pandora, Chang, very welcome. I know it's very early in Europe for you. It's probably about 4 a.m. in the morning. So my deep gratitude to you for being again in this OPCC webinar. Having said that, I really would like to bring our attention to our third panelist, which is, it has a very important place in the heart of people in WWF. And this is our dear colleague, Carina Bergström. Carina has been the heart and the brain for a long time of this initiative. And I think OPCC will not be anything that it is now if it was not being thanks to Carina Bergström. So for me, it's a great honor to have Carina here in this webinar. And please, Carina, I know you're very humble, but take this as a small tribute to you, to all the effort that you have been putting in OPCC, and particular in this cycle. So there's much more that we will see from Carina over the next years, but it is important to say that in this first OPCC, this webinar cycle, the first time that we do it in this way, we give some tribute to dear Carina. Carina, thanks very much for being in this webinar. It's also very early for you, Carina. I probably around 5 o'clock in Stockholm time. So coming back to the webinar today, the idea is that we will have an open conversation about the most frequent asked questions regarding the process of reporting, the questionnaire, as well as the main features of the OPCC. There will be time for questions from the audience. If there are some of these questions that we have not covered over the webinar, there will be also time for participants to interact with those. And finally, we will have a quick overview. What are the final steps in order to accomplish our 10th of July deadline of reporting in order to successfully participate in the OPCC. So I think for the first time I've been speaking too much for an introduction in a webinar. So I think I would like to open the space to my, my participant panelists. I'm gonna unmute you all. Maybe Chang, you will need to unmute yourself. And I will also stop sharing my screen so we can see each other while speaking. So thanks again for this participation. And let me ask you one question to everyone. So, and this is something that I always wanted to ask you, Chang, Pandora, and Karina. So you have been working for the for this reporting, climate reporting process for a long time, either on OPCC or either as part of any other initiative. So it would be very nice if you could share with us, in your view, from a reporting perspective, from a fill-in data submission perspective, or even from an OPCC perspective, what are the challenges that you have foreseen cities usually confront when they participate in this exercise of disclosing climate commitments and climate plans? And more importantly, I will be very keen to hear from you what recommendations you give to cities in order to overcome burdens in the process of reporting and successfully participating in OPCC. So let me start with you, Karina, in this question. So back to you, Karina.
Thank you, Tabare. Can you hear me?
We can hear you very well.
So I think one of the areas where cities sometimes struggle is in internal coordination, in particular cities with different departments managing different parts of the city affairs. Sometimes there is a struggle to find the information and to overview the process of reporting. So one of the main advices here is really to find the coordination and an agreement on who should be participating in collecting the information to report. It has even happened in some places that there are different departments that have started to engage and report. So this internal coordination is one advice which will make the process much easier. I think I will, on the actual reporting on the platform, I think Chang will have a lot of input as well as Pandora. So that's the first thing I come to think of early in the morning.
No, that's great. Thank you very much, Karina. I think it does reveal one of the important challenges and the need to be very well coordinated. Chang, what about you? What is one of these barriers that cities you think are confronted with the process of submitting data when they want to disclose their information to the OPCC?
Hi, morning everyone, or afternoon. I think the main challenge is to understand the questionnaire correctly, or in depth, precisely, on in each reporting platform or initiative, including OPCC. Actually, there are a lot of data points required from city or recommended from city. And as Karina said, often there is a lack of capacity or lack of time for city to have really deep learning in every question, and what exactly does the question ask? What is the status of development for action? What does scoping mean? What is scoping different from pre-implementation? And often the city fill in those answers without really know what it mean, or how do they, especially in those open questions like provide a summary for action or action plan, what should they include in the action and action plan. I think over years I I have been participating in OPCC. I think this is the 4th year, if I'm not if not the 5th. and over time, I really see the reporting quality improved, especially for the city has been always participating. So I also myself as a witness to see how this initiative brings changes in city, not only in raising ambition, but also in the quality of reporting itself. But in the long run, especially for newcomers and the city that has less capacity, like more guidance on the website, on the right beside the question. That is what we have been trying to doing with the CDP this time on the website. But also, if we can give feedback to city, not only to the selected cities, but like every city to say, oh, here, unfortunately, your summary did not get the score, or we did not find the match because of this and that reason, and to more stimulate the learning and improvement. That would be my biggest recommendation.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chang. So Pandora, it's your turn. You have been very involved in the whole process of unification of the reporting system platforms, and you have lots of experience in the actual submission, the actually reporting from the city's perspective in terms of how the platform works and how people log into this database or collecting archive. So it will be quite interesting if you also share your views of what's the most frequent thing that you face with city participants in terms of the actual access to the reporting process.
Yeah, sure, definitely. I think that one of the things we get quite often is that cities come back to us and they say, we don't have the data, or we're not taking this specific action. We don't have an action plan, or we don't have adaptation actions or something like that, and we don't have the data to fill into the questionnaire. And so they're so the response is, well, what's the point in us doing it if we don't have the data? But actually, I think not having the data and being able to communicate that through the questionnaire and then is so important, because that tells us that we have work to do in supporting cities, in supporting your city in working on these different things. So helping you develop an action plan. I think also it's a real opportunity for cities to go in, establish what you have and what you don't have. So consolidating that information as to what you have and don't have, and by actually going in and answering the questionnaire, you gain that information, and then we also gain that information in order to better develop resources and capacity building, and all the different things all the different tools that we have to provide. So so that's kind of my main thing, is that even if you don't have a piece of data, telling us no, we don't have that data is just as valuable, as if you did have that data as well.
Great, fantastic. That actually brings me to one of the questions that we have received more often, one of the most frequent asked questions, and maybe Karina Chang, you can help me with this one. And the question is very related to what you just said, Pandora. The question is, can cities participating in the OPCC report mitigation and adaptation action under one single integrated plan? So we have seen that in many cases, cities do have adaptation or mitigation actions, but sometimes they have everything integrated into one plan. So one of the frequent questions that we receive if they should report it only under one stream, if there's a way they can report it together. So maybe you can help me from an OPCC perspective and from a questionnaire perspective, Karina and Chang, starting with Karina.
Firstly, we really support and encourage integration of plans, and ideally already in the overall master plan that adaptation and mitigation is integrated. When it comes to how to report and where to report, my recommendation is to look at what is the main focus of the action, and then if it's mitigation, then report it under mitigation. but make sure to highlight there is a section where you can choose what kind of co-benefits it has. Then you can highlight if it has adaptation co-benefits, for example. What I would like to ask Chang is what to do if you have one action plan that is integrated from the start and you want to highlight different actions, mitigation and adaptation, whether ICLE and CDP, if you would recommend to upload or attach that action plan in both places under both mitigation and adaptation. Because for the OPCC assessment, the important thing is to have access to the action plan to assess it. But whether it makes sense to upload it twice, that's something I'd like to ask Chang.
Sure. Okay. Thank you for raising this question. Actually, it's this key question. First of all, let me take a step back, because actually there are two questions. One is, if an action has mitigation adaptation impact, should it be reported under action plan? Mitigation action plan or adaptation action plan. So the first question is where to report an action. And the second question is, if I have an integrated action plan, where to report the action plan. So actually there are two questions. Mm-hmm. And the first one, where to report an action, on the new questionnaire, you can see there a place to report adaptations action, which is separate from the place to report mitigation action. Therefore, for action purpose, we suggest the city to take a primary focus, which was also in the previous questionnaire in on CCR, that the city has to choose if it is adaptation or mitigation, or adaptation has mitigation secondary focus, or mitigation have adaptation secondary focus. So the city must choose a primary focus and report that this action in its primary focus area. And you can, the city can illustrate the co-benefit or synergy in the summary box and as impact. That's fine. That's the first question answered. Reported once at the primary focus location for action. The second question is where to report an action plan if it is integrated. Yes, you can report it twice. By report it twice, actually, I like Karina used the keyword attach, because in action plan, we does ask the city to attach the supporting document. Very often the city has a development 5-year sustainability development plan, which include both area, mitigation and adaptation, and such a aggregated document or integrated document can be attached there. Well, in each section, in the mitigation plan and adaptation plan section, you have different focus. You can, when you summarize the action plan in the mitigation action plan section, you can focus on summarize the mitigation goal impact, and in adaptation section you focus on the adaptation section. But exactly as Karina kindly noticed that in the action plan reporting box, there is a place to ask if it is a aggregated plan, if it has synergy and trade-off, you can report it accordingly. But you can report it twice with different focus and attach the same document twice. That I hope it is clear. It's complicated.
Yeah, I guess in summary, yes, there's a need for cities to select a primary focus, but in the end, the questionnaire allows you to submit the proofs of what you are planning, and when you have an integrated action plans, you can show proof of that, and that's also very beneficial for your, let's say, score accounting in OPCC. So I think, Chang, you did answer very clearly. And while you were speaking, you mentioned something that catch my attention. You mentioned the CCR, and for those that do not know what CCR is, well, CCR is a carbon registry. And one of the frequent questions that we have is if those participants or those cities participating in this year's OPCC, if they will have some kind of access to the registration, to the previous data submissions they had under CCR. Let's remember that in the past, cities have been reporting their climate actions in many fronts. So OPCC is not the only one. But now we talk about a CDP ICLEI unified reporting system, and OPCC is using this system to somehow archive the information that cities are submitting. So one of these questions that we often confront with is that if people somehow they can have access to their previous submissions, either via CDP or via Carbon, the CCR, and if so, what's the process? So maybe this is a question for you, Chang, and then to Pandora. Maybe you can give us some ideas of how this will work.
Okay. So the question is about how to access it rather than have it into CDP platform, right?
No, sorry. The question is if previous submissions through the Carbon or to the CDP can be recovered under this new unified reporting system.
Okay. So ICLEI and CDP has been putting a great amount of effort to help city, especially OPCC cities, transfer historical data from the CCR database to the CDP database. And we did select the city. However, this transfer is only applied to the mitigation target, action plan, risk and hazard identified, and greenhouse gas inventory. The community greenhouse gas inventory. The action, which is a often reported item, cannot be transferred because the change, the heavy change of question structure. So you can understand as we ask a question differently, or we expect answer differently, like description instead of drop down. Therefore, we cannot transfer the historical data to the new platform. Another key issue is the attachment. The supporting document cannot be transferred, which is also the same mechanism for the CDP platform. They have a take forward mechanism, meaning the city can review their last year's report and decide if they simply take it forward, but like a copy paste it to this year, and or replace it by updating it. But for this service, also the attachment is they have to reattach the supporting document. This is to answer carry data forward. We did open the call. I even remember that announced in the last webinar, OPCC one. We received a lot of cities from OPCC requesting the data transfer, and and the call ended at the 15th of May. ICLEI has responded to the city or the OPCC offices once the request is received, and give a general analysis on if the city has transferable data, like non-action data to be simplified. And we believe the data will be transferred very soon in the next 1 or 2 weeks, because we are literally on progress, and whenever the city data is transferred, we will inform the city with a link to let them access to the historical data and update. And this is to answer the transfer. In terms of have access, previously ICLEI offers the access through the downloading of offline reporting sheet, but with the changing of the platform, the reporting sheet is no longer update, because we do not have an offline reporting sheet to reflect the new questionnaire. And therefore, I don't think there is an open place except for the website. They can check it, but they can always write an email to carbon@iclei.org to ask for a full extraction.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Cheng. Pandora, anything that you would like to add on this from a city perspective? I mean, there are cities that previously have reported on CDP, they are familiarized, but what happened with those cities that now they also want to join the OPCC? Is there a way that automatically some information is recovered?
Yes. So basically what happens is if you reported in 2018, when you go into the questionnaire, all your 2018 data is pre-populated into the questionnaire. As Chang said, this is not every single question because of the slight changes and the evolving of the questionnaire from 2018 to 2019. But all your answers appear in the questionnaire, and then you can just go through and update. There's also a copy forward button next to each question, so that if you make a change to 2018 and then you realize, actually, no, I want to, 2018 was better, or I just want to have a look at what my 2018 response was for that specific question, there's a little button, so you can click that, and it opens a box that will show you your 2018 response. Incidentally, it will also show you the full 2018 response for that question, even if some of the columns don't match into the 2019 questionnaire. So it's a really great way to see, the data that you had within that question, if it fits somewhere slightly different within the 2019 questionnaire. Cities can also access their 2018 response through the full response, so kind of an exportable PDF version of their response from the city dashboard.
That's great that you mentioned, because one of the very frequent questions we have is that if cities somehow they can do their reporting offline, if they can download something to fill in and then submit it later. And from what you say, I understand that there's an option within the platform to do this, right? To do some kind of offline reporting. Did I get it right, Pandora?
Yes, yeah. So once you're in the online response system, so the actual questionnaire itself, there's an export to Excel feature, which, as it says, it allows you to export your whole response. So in draft form to Excel, you can then fill in the questionnaire online, share it with colleagues, get their input. And then once you're finished, you can upload that into the questionnaire, and it will pre-populate the online questionnaire. There's also a function to export to Word, but that is just for viewing only, so you won't be able to upload that again. So I would recommend using the export to Excel to export, edit offline, and then re-import, and then once you're happy with it, I would recommend that you then export to Word and maybe share that with your colleagues in case you need sign off. It's a good format to share the draft of the questionnaire with colleagues, get sign off, and then submit.
Perfect. I think you said a couple of highlight things to be highlighted. So yes, you can do the reporting offline, and you can actually download on an Excel sheet and a Word document, but the Word document is only for viewing purposes, right? So the Excel sheet can be filled and then submitted later, but the document, it's only for viewing purposes, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Perfect, great. Okay, and this brings me to another thing that I also wanted to ask you, Pandora, and maybe you can also help me with this later on, Karina and Chang. So in the process, once you submit, we are very clear that we need to do this by the 10th of July, right? So that's the deadline for the submission. But then there's an immediate question that comes to my mind, and that has been also very frequently asked to us: if the cities can modify submissions once they have done the actual submission. So to say, can cities do some kind of update? And this is not only because of their previous submission that could be recovered and they would like to update, but in the actual process of submission after July 10th, can they do some updating of the information if they want to? Pandora?
Yeah. Yes. So once the city has submitted, they can, through the city dashboard, they can open what we call a disclosure amendment, and that's a kind of a process that the city would undertake themselves. There's an option to open disclosure amendment once the city has submitted through the city dashboard, and then you can go in and edit your response. The only thing is that I would really recommend that you make sure that you submit that response again in time for the deadline. Otherwise, if you're making an amendment and we take a cut of data that we then send to partners, or we then use for scoring or analytics, or all of the other tools that we provide, then your amendment, if it's still in progress, any changes you've made won't be included in that. So you really have to make sure you submit those changes as soon as you're ready, so that they're included in any sort of assessment. Yeah.
Great. Karina, what Pandora is saying reminds me when I was in university and I was assigned a homework, and then I was a bad student, to be honest, so I never met the deadline, and I was always asking my professor if he would allow me, or she would allow me to submit at a later stage. And there was always a no, but there was a justification behind that no. So maybe you can share with us why, in terms of OPCC reporting, we have such a strict deadline of July the 10th. Is it because we are all bad students, or is there any other reason?
I would say both. There is always a tendency to push the deadline, and it's not easier to do it next week. It's better to do it now. We also have this deadline in order to be able to go through the data and do completeness and quality checks, in order to be able to reach out to cities and let them know if there are apparent errors. So it's also a matter of a service to the cities. So by reporting by this deadline, there will be an opportunity to get information about lacking information or weird numbers, which cities then will be able to update, as Pandora explained. So that's the purpose.
And is this related also to the key features that WWF is offering for this particular cycle? I remember that in webinar 4, we talked about the deep dive assessment and the pre-screening assessment, and maybe you can give us a quick overview of what are these key features that we're offering to cities that are willing and capable of meeting the 10th of July deadline?
Yes. So what's new with this updated assessment framework is that we will be able to offer a pre-screening of all of the participating cities. So all of the cities will receive a pre-screening report, and the pre-screening framework is also used to identify data gaps and potential errors. So this is part of the process to run the data through this pre-screening framework, and that will also enable us to more clearly explain to the cities what data points are missing, or how they actually affect the evaluation. And as you know, there are many different aspects in the evaluation, including, of course, the alignment with the science-based target, but also various criteria of evidence-based action planning. This pre-screening assessment attempts to capture the key data points and the key pieces of information that are important for the cities to deliver, but also to use for raised ambition and more strong action planning. And the third component is an action-oriented feedback to the cities, which will help them identify the most impactful actions, both on mitigation and adaptation for cities of their type. But in relation to your question, the pre-screening framework will be used at an early stage to identify the key data points for the city to look at and ideally improve where that is needed.
Cool. So let's assume that we will all meet the deadline, and we are working hard to do that. So that's great that there are some incentives also to meet the deadline, right? To have access to all these opportunities. So now I would go back to quickly to you, Pandora, because now I have a challenging question. So, well, maybe not that challenging, but okay, we decided that we will meet the deadline, and we decided we want to participate in the OPCC, and we are very excited that we can use this CDP eCLAY unified reporting system. but what do I need to do as a city to participate in this? Is there a particular way to have access to the registration portal, or how does that work? Do you send me an invitation? Do I need to contest for one? How does that work? Can you guide me in the process?
Yeah, definitely. So if you haven't already received an invitation email and an activation link, then all you need to do is you just need to get in contact with cities@cdp.net. And what we'll do is we'll send you a unique activation link that's unique to your email address and the city that you are reporting on behalf of. And then you just click that activation link and follow the instructions essentially. So it'll ask you to create a password and create an account, so register an account like you would on any other kind of website, and then you will have access to the dashboard and the city dashboard and the questionnaire.
Perfect. That's great. Thank you very much. So I think it's a good moment to make a pause and maybe open some space for questions from the audience. Is there any particular question that dear participants in this webinar you may have, something that you would like to get clarification on, or a follow-up question? If so, please just write it on the chat, and we'll be happy to try answering it as soon as it comes. All right, so I don't see anything in the chat box. So in the meantime, I will continue with some of these frequent asked questions that we have. And there's this one. We talk about the reporting quite a lot, and sometimes, well, to be honest, we're having a very international webinar being spoken in English. So one of the very frequent questions that we have is, well, what happens if I want to participate, but I don't feel that much comfortable in English? The submission needs to come in English. Can I have a special version of the questionnaire in other language? Maybe Chang, you can guide us over the language barrier, how the OPCC and the Unified CDP Clay Reporting System is approaching this.
Sure.
Oh, we lost you, Chang.
Oh, sorry, I accidentally pressed the mute button. The Unified Reporting System does offer different language versions. I remember it's 7, but I don't remember exactly which. Pandora, maybe you can help me on that. And then, therefore, yes, the city can view the questionnaire in different languages, and also correct me if I'm wrong, Pandora, if they can download the questionnaire in Excel and in Word in the chosen language. However, in terms of submission, for those question that is like yes, no, or drop down, choosing from drop down list, it doesn't matter, because no matter which language the city use for submission, in the end they will be saved in the same way in the database and can be extracted and reviewed in another language. But for the free text, the text field input, they cannot be translated. And I think it relates to the evaluation framework of the OPCC, because in previous years we've encountered the requirement such as mapping the actions impact or actions sector according to its summary. So the summary itself, which is a free text, is an evaluation point. When that is the case, the language is a barrier, because unfortunately, maybe with English, there's more chance that the submitted content can be reviewed and evaluated. So I would highly recommend to report in English when it is free text, and when not, please pay attention to the previous webinar when introduced the evaluation framework. At least to try to submit English input to those questions that will be evaluated.
Thank you, Chang. So we have a question from the participants. Actually, it's quite a funny question because it seems to be submitted by someone with the same name I have. So, oh, that's great. Anyway, so the question reads this way. Do you have, this is for you, Chang, do you have the questionnaire in an Excel file? As I see it, it is PDF and Word that is very difficult to fill in. So the question is if the questionnaire is available on an Excel file. I think this can also be related to the question we talked about before with Pandora. But Chan, please give us your view on this this question.
Yeah, yeah, sure. It is as Pandora said. So the questionnaire, we encourage user to fill in the questionnaire online. That's an online portal, and an Excel file is provided as an alternative once you need sign in, once you need multiple people fill it in. An Excel file can be downloaded and as a reporting mechanism and upload back as well. In terms of this question, if the city can only see a PDF document or a Word document, I'm thinking the city only is it just assumption? Maybe the city only registered from online instead of obtaining and using the activation link. So if that is the case, you have no access to the Excel or the online portal where you can type in the data, please write an email to cities@cdp.org. Feel free to copy WWF and ICLEI for the carbon at iclei.org for your support. Again, it highly recommended to report online. Excel sheet can be downloaded as reporting tool as well.
Perfect, great, Chang. And let me direct this next question. I think it's coming from our, as we say in Spanish, la hermana república de Guatemala, so the sister country of Guatemala. And this question, I will take it to you, Karina. For the OPCC cities, just have to answer the questions that specify that are for the OPCC. So let me rephrase the question. So for cities participating in OPCC, do they only need to answer OPCC related questions? Let's remember that when one is filling the questionnaire, I think there are some kind of sentence and some remarks saying like, oh, this is an OPCC question. So the question is if we should only answer to these ones, or should we answer to all of the questions that are in the questionnaire?
Thank you for this important question, which gives us the opportunity. We did highlight it in previous webinars, but it's important for the cities to know that in section 8, there are actually questions on energy efficiency and renewable energy targets, which we would like the cities to respond to as well. Otherwise, the question is yes, cities only need to answer to the questions that are specified as OPCC questions, but we actually failed to identify 2 questions that were outside and that are part of the main CDP questionnaire, which WWF finds very important. So to assess targets, we would like you to also answer 2 questions on targets for energy efficiency and renewable energy. And those again are in section 8, and you can also find highlights about this in the instructions. Then of course a general comment back is that it doesn't hurt to respond to more questions, of course, but we don't require cities to respond to all of the questions. We actually just want to encourage responding to as many relevant questions as possible. And if you don't have answers to some questions, as I think it was Pandora who highlighted initially, but then write that you don't have this at this point, because this is a first step in any case. Yeah, so.
Perfect.
This question.
Let me just follow up on this, Karina. So I think one of I remember from first webinar with our dear lead, Jennifer Lenhart of the OPCC, she was highlighting that in this edition, one of the advantages is that we put also an effort in unified or questions with the GCOM, the Global Covenant of Major Questionnaire, right? So can you guide me in this? What's exactly, because you said it is not hurting to fill all the questionnaire, So then my immediate question will be, well, actually, if it is not hurting, maybe it's even beneficial, right?
Thanks, Tabare. It's still early in my morning. One of the main reasons for updating the assessment framework beyond this alignment with science-based target setting and evidence-based action planning was actually to make it easier for cities to do two things at once. One thing, participate in the OPCC and get this guidance to improve action planning and alignment with science. But secondly, to join the Compact of Mayors and to do the reporting requirements for the Compact of Mayors, because this is a global initiative which really creates critical mass, collecting information from cities all over the world. So a main purpose of updating the questionnaire for the OPCC was to align it with the reporting that many cities anyway wish to do for the Global Covenant of Mayors. So we really want to encourage this alignment and reduce also the reporting fatigue for the cities, making you get more out of the actual reporting that you do, and also ensuring that it's more aligned and comparable with what cities all over the world is doing.
Great, fantastic. So I think we are reaching the final stretch of this webinar. We have 10 minutes left. I would like to take 5 for the final remarks. But maybe, is there any other question in the chat box that you would like to ask us, dear participants? If not, I will invite you, the three of you, once again, to maybe helping me with one final question from my side. So at the beginning, I started asking you, so what's the thing that you think cities are more confronted when filling questionnaire, reporting, or participating in OPCC? And you already gave us some ideas of how to overcome these barriers. It's about coordination, it's about meeting deadlines, it's about prioritizing, etc. So we have 5 more minutes, and I would like to have maybe a quick comment from your side based on this conversation. Anything else that you would like to tell to our participants in this webinar and those that will be watching this podcast at a later stage? Anything that you would suggest to make sure their participation in OPCC will be an extraordinary one? And let me start with you, Pandora.
Yeah, sure. I will just start by just answering Chang's kind of question or comment about the languages available on the platform. So if I rightly remember, we have English, French, Spanish, Portuguese, Japanese, and simplified Chinese available on the platform. So you can kind of swap languages as you see fit. Sorry, what was the question, Tabara? Just the final remark.
Final remark from your side, how cities can improve their participation in the OPCC from an angle of reporting in the platform, for instance.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think just also being aware that there are big teams of people that are here to support you. You know, you're definitely not alone in your reporting efforts. There are hundreds of other cities going through the same process, and we really have, you know, dealt with all sorts of different questions and provided all sorts of different support over the years. So please do reach out to any of the organisations supporting CDP, CLAY, or WWF, because we're really here to support you and to help you. So yeah, please do reach out to us.
Thank you very much, Pandora. Chang, any remark that you would like to highlight, to suggest or advise how cities can improve their participation in OPCC?
I have a very practical point. Do not forget to use the activation link, because we found that's the major change from previous experience, and it's a bit confusing because the CDP portal does allow registration online, but the registration only allow you as a viewer, not as a reporter. That's the main behavior change, and we have experienced that very often. And even for the city who required their historical data to be transferred, they didn't activate their link. So if I may just yell out one last time, use the activation link.
I think that's a good one. It's a very important one. And I must admit that that has happened to me. Not because I am a city that I wanted to report, but because I have been confronted with that same question. So thanks very much, Chang, for highlighting it. And yes, so please don't forget to get the activation link. And if you have not get it, please contact CDP for that. So dearest Karina, the inspiration of OPCC, tell us, what's your advice to improve the participation of cities in this newly branded, or sorry to say newly launched 2019-2020 OPCC initiative?
Thank you, Tabari. I would like to highlight to everybody that this is more support mechanism for cities to succeed in implementing really strong climate action. And think of it as such. This is a journey, and we're here to support you. And just to reiterate what Pandora said, please make sure to use the available resources and the information. Reach out, and there are so many people out there in the local WWF offices, at CDP, at ICLEI, who want to help you and have a lot of information for you. And remember, it doesn't stop with your reporting. This is a cycle where you will get really extensive feedback. All the participants will get this pre-screening feedback report, and shortlisted cities will have an even deeper assessment coming back to them. And that's actually where the journey begins, because what we need to do now is to improve our climate action planning. And together with our partners, we want to give the information needed for the cities to do that. And then on top of that, WWF also wants to help you to engage your citizens in support of those action plans. So think of it as a journey, and make sure to use our support. Don't hesitate to reach out. And thank you so much again to our partners for making this possible.
Yes, that's very important. Thanks, Karina. Our big gratitude to CDP and ICLEI that have been supporting this journey for a long time. And as you said, this is a journey, and I think it's a journey that is aimed to inspire the world and to transform, as we said in our slogan, local action into global climate leadership. So thank you. Let me just share, I think it's a moment to start closing the webinar. I will share my screen back. So I hope you can see it. Oh, this is not good. You're seeing my notes, right? How do I do this actually? So just give me 1 second. I am the worst engineer ever. There you go. So questions, we have great answers. Probably we didn't answer all of you. If you have any other, do not hesitate to at first contact CDP for any technical question. If you require your activation link, please contact cities@cdp.net. If you have further questions regarding the questionnaire, very important that you contact for technical support, carbon@iclei.org, ICLEI, the local governments for sustainability. And if you have any other general question regarding the benefits, the tools, the whole process of the OPCC, please feel free to contact us at opcc.wwf.se, SE as in Sweden. How interesting is that? Participation in OPCC. So, I think this is quite important to say. If you are interested in participating and you have not done it yet, please show your interest to your local WWF office. If you have done it, you don't have to do it again. And if there's no local WWF office, please contact us at our Sweden office. So very important that once you have your activation link and once you have registered, well, you opt in for the OPCC, you will see in your dashboard different a very interesting initiative. If you want to participate in OPCC 2019-2020, you need to opt in for OPCC. It's very important that you meet the data requirements, reporting requirements, and remember that these ones are the same as the Global Covenant of Mayors. And fundamentally, it is essential that you submit your information to the CDP ICLEI Unified Reporting System at the latest July the 10th. So remember, reporting framework same as the GCOM. The components of the assessment of the OPCC include many elements, but fundamentally and very important that you don't forget to fill in section 8 on renewable energy and energy efficiency, very important for your participation. Again, we are reporting now under the CDP eCLAIS Unified Reporting System. Very fantastic platform, actually. If you have not logged into it, there are many cool things out there, many tools that you can use to help your disclosing of information and participation in OPCC. So really have a look, not only at the process of reporting, but at using the platform. And well, again, cities invited to register, need to opt in. So you get your link, to registration link via CDP, and then you register and you open your portal, you opt in for OPCC. So if you still have some questions, we have provided a couple of materials. We have developed some materials that might be useful for you. At first, we have our OPCC card, which is a general guidelines of the history, what is OPCC. We have cool videos in it. It's very interactive card. You get information, statistics, who has been winning before, etc. Very nice to have a quick look at it. We have also developed more, let's say, content developed materials. One of them is the OPC guidelines, which gives you all the step-by-step process for the participation in OPCC, but we also have a more technical, detailed OPCC data assessment framework that basically disclose to you in a very transparent way what are the methods, approaches, and elements for evaluation for the alignment of cities to the 1.5 degrees, as well as how we are going to do the ad hoc feedback to cities. So very important that you look at these documents. If you still have any questions in whatever other topic, or you're shy to contact CDP or eCLAIS or local offices, please feel free to reach us at WWF.se in Sweden. You're invited to also visit our websites, our We Love Cities website, which is the campaign for the OPCC challenge, and as well as our general OPCC website. You can follow us on media. And I think this is the moment in which I need to say goodbye to you, not without thanking again all of my panelists and you participants for attending to this 5th OPCC webinar, the last webinar of this series. So I need to say to you that that's it. Eso es todo, amigos. That's all, folks. So I hope to see you in engage with OPCC. I hope to see you joining this global effort to inspire the world, and more importantly, you participate in the transformation and the creation of global climate leadership. My name is Tabaré Arroyo Curras. I am a member of the One Planet Cities team, and it has been my pleasure to host you over the last 5 webinars. So this is the end of this webinar, the end of the series. It was great talking to you, and well, looking forward to seeing you soon. The webinar is over. You may all go in peace. Thank you very much. Ciao, ciao.
Thanks so much, Tabari.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you, Tabare.
Ciao.
Bye-bye, Pandora and Chang.